So, can you buy a house with zero down, no down payments? Short answer, yes. Let's talk about it. Okay, so let's talk about some of the lenders who actually offer zero down payments. So, a lot of the lenders out there who offer zero down, they will have loan programs that yes, you could potentially qualify for them, but usually the qualifications are pretty strict, I guess you could say. They're wanting really high credit scores, or they're wanting to see a debt to income ratio, which is what comes in versus what goes out, your income versus your debt. They want that as wide as possible. So you got to have very little debt in your credit. They're going to want somebody basically who has really squeaky clean credit too. So like no bankruptcies and different things like that. It can be kind of hard to qualify for some of these loans, but they are not the only option. So let's dive into those a little bit more. Okay, so a lot of lenders will give you access to government-backed programs. Some of these government-backed programs are things like the VA, so the veterans, any kind of military veterans qualify for zero down financing. They do have to meet certain criterias. You know, they still scrutinize your credit. You still got to have the right credit score, but the amount of money that you're bringing to the actual table is usually a lot less. The other thing about these programs also is that you usually qualify for a smaller interest rate, usually on average, I want to say maybe like a point less than what is like being sold to everybody else. Sometimes it's even more, just depending on your credit score. So it's definitely one of those things where if you are a veteran, you do definitely want to take advantage of that. Make sure that you're using those benefits because these are the kind of benefits that in the long run are going to pay off big time. Okay. Another one that if you are not a veteran, everybody has access to is called a USDA loan, which a lot of people are not super familiar with. It's what other people might call a rural loan, rural as in not a lot of people around type of rural. If you're in a bigger city, the chances of you being able to get a USDA loan is a little bit less. But if you're just like on the outer skirts of a city where there's just a lot of lands, there's just not a whole lot of properties. They're like in what one would call like a progress zone. So like eventually there might be a town nearby or the progress is kind of starting to creep into that area, but not quite there yet. The property itself has to qualify for USDA, but you're not bringing anything down. And again, the interest rates on these are a little bit lower. There's a really great lot of people that can actually qualify for USDA. You just have to find the right property. So that one's a little bit more property based. Now, let's talk about down payment assistance programs. Down payment assistance programs can be amazing things to tap into, but you just gotta have the right lender. They need to know what they're doing. One of the biggest things is that there are different types of down payment assistance programs. So sometimes some lenders will actually have their own in-house type of program, but some of the bigger national ones, like Genoa, there's a few of them just based on your location too. Your city might have some. Your county might have some down payment assistance programs. Statewide, it just kind of depends on where you live and what these programs are like. But just to kind of give you an example of what they're like, you have to meet certain qualifications. A lot of times it has to do with your credit history. Sometimes it has to do with your income. They want to make sure that you need basically the down payment assistance. And some of these programs, and I take that back, some of these programs don't even really care about income. That's why it's important to kind of know, make sure your lender knows all the rules for some of these programs or who does what. But what you want to know is that they sometimes give you the money in a different way. Some of them are a grant. It's your money indefinitely. Basically, they're giving it to you, and that money goes back. It's basically an investment into the community, and you don't have to pay that money back. Some other programs, though, and these are some of the more popular programs, you have to be careful because they will do something called like a silent lien on your home for it. And you have to pay back that down payment assistance at a later time. Okay, so for example, you might say, all right, I qualify for $7,000 down payment. Now what they're going to do is at closing, you're going to have a first lien, which is your mortgage, and then they're going to have a second lien. They're going to place a second lien on your home for that $7,000. Now, what does that mean exactly? It means that you cannot sell that home without paying that $7,000. Now, if you're buying that house and you're going to be there for 15, 20 years, you're planning to raise a family there, $7,000, with how much the property values come up. When you go to sell that property, $7,000 is a drop in the bucket. It's not even a big deal. Then you know what? Go for it. But sometimes $7,000 might be a big deal if, let's say, 6 months, a year down the line, something happened, someone lost a job and they got to move. You got to get out of the house for whatever reason. Something happens with the house itself and something falls apart. You can't afford to live in that house anymore or to repair it, and you have to sell that house. Well, when you go to sell the house, you're still paying closing costs. As a part of you actually selling it, there are fees that you have to pay when you go to sell a home. And the amount that it's appreciated needs to be able to cover that fee and that $7,000 lien. If not, you're coming out of pocket at closing for that money. So down payment assistance programs are awesome if you're in the right program and it works for you, especially in the long run, because some of those are very easy to qualify. They'll just give it to anybody and everybody. They'll just be like, here's $7,000. Let me put a lien on your house. Sometimes that $7,000 is at 0% interest, and sometimes you'll actually accumulate an interest on it. So that's something else that you have to pay attention to. So really do your due diligence and ask those questions when you're going into down payment assistance programs. While we're on the topic, let's talk about closing costs. There is no such thing as just not bringing any money to the table when you actually close. When you close, you still have to pay your closing costs, and that could be anywhere from as little as $1,000 all the way up to tens of thousands of dollars, just depending on a few different things. And this is something that you really need to keep in mind when you are looking for a zero down kind of loan, because if you're in the mindset of, I don't have to bring any money to the table, you're headed for a shocker. You still have to put some money away. All right. So let's just dive into what is closing costs. What exactly entails it? So closing costs basically is everything that has to do with the transaction itself of purchasing the house. For example, when you buy the house, you get a deed. That deed is a piece of paper. You're paying for them to create that piece of paper with your name on it and all of the stuff on it. Okay. That paper gets a stamp. You got to pay for that paper and you got to pay for that stamp. That paper with the stamp gets recorded with the county. You got to pay for them to record that. You got to pay for the thing to get notarized. You have to pay for the title company to run the title on it to make sure that the house is clear to actually be sold. There's a lot of little things that end up adding up to a lot of money at the end of the day. Now, there is one program that has like the smallest amount of closing costs possible, but you definitely want to make sure that you are saving up for your closing costs and that you know what it's going to be ahead of time. And a good lender should be able to really tell you this. But let's go back and talk a little bit more about that program that I mentioned that has the least closing costs that I've seen so far. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about NACA. So NACA is short for the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. It's technically a nonprofit organization. Most nonprofits are good things, and right now it's a good thing. It's just that the way that they began was not exactly good, I guess you could say. I actually talked a little bit about its history in my last video. Go check that one out, and I'll probably do another one with a little bit more information. Very interesting program. Now, the restrictions or the qualifications, I should say, around this program are a lot less strict than most lenders. Like if all the lenders say no to you, this is the place to go, okay? And instead of you having to pay so much more, it's actually the opposite. So you're actually paying a way smaller down payment, or excuse me, no down payment at all. You're paying almost nothing for closing costs. I mean, it's as little as $1,000 or less. I mean, it just depends on a few situations. They are excuse me, they're going to offer you an interest rate that is way lower than anything that is on the market right now. You can even buy it down to get it even lower. So like, let's say you end up saving all of that down payment money, all of that closing cost money, and you think, oh, it's going to be $5,000. Well, guess what? It's only going to be $1,000, but you can use that $4,000 to buy down the rate even further, which is just amazing. A lot of pros to this program. There are some cons, though. Let's talk about some of the cons. First of all, it is a painstaking, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, process. It's a lot more intensive than if you just go to a regular lender. Even for like your FHA, USDA, veteran kind of stuff, this is going to take a little bit more work. There is like a 4-hour long class that you have to take. There's a portal you have to like upload all the documents and more. You have to make sure that you create a budget and show the budget. And then sometimes for a few months, you have to show them that you've been saving up money, just depending on the situation. Some people can close super fast if they're like really, really dedicated, wham, bam, ready. They're just ready to go, like from the beginning of the process to getting that approval to go find a house. It could be 3, 4, 5 days. Some people might take 2 months. Some people just start and it just becomes so overwhelming that they just never finish. They give up on the process. So my suggestion, like I mentioned in that last video, is just to have someone to kind of help you. If that's going to be you, if you're just a really busy person, or if you're not computer savvy and you kind of just need somebody to hold your hand through the process, somebody just to kind of push you along, maybe help you find the documents that you might need. Maybe hire a financial coach to help you with that process to get you along a little bit further, especially when it comes time to creating that budget. I myself am a financial coach. I mean, that's what my channel is all about. I'm a financial coach and I specialize in this exact same thing, in getting people ready to purchase a house. And that is something I am definitely familiar with. So if you want more information on my program and what I do, I'll go ahead and leave some links in the description so you can get some of that information on your own. But I just want you to know that 0% down doesn't always mean nothing out of pocket, but it's not impossible to get really close to like nothing down. You just got to know where to look. You got to know who to talk to. You got to be able to trust the person who is in the process with you. And you have to be determined to really look at it like as a part-time job. Okay. And you're investing for your future. You're investing for your future home. So I hope this information kind of gives you hope and kind of messes with your head to start the process if you're still renting. What you don't want to do is wait too long, because if you wait too long, you're going to end up getting priced out of your market and you're going to have to move somewhere that's cheaper to live, which, unfortunately, people have had to do a lot in the last few years. So give me a call. We'll talk a little bit more, or, leave me some questions down in the description and, or excuse me, down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer questions for you guys, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye.